Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place for free, which you can use right from your phone or computer. Creation tools allow you to record and edit your podcast so it sounds great. They'll distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. You can easily make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. I'm Michael Chabot, and I'm here to tell you that there will always be challenges in life, and in some cases, like mine, tragedies. But human beings are resilient. All you need to do is make a decision today. Follow me on this journey to hope, and together we will live, we will learn, and we will grow. And hopefully, we will find some hope in every day. Welcome to my journey to hope. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of My Journey to Hope. I'm Michael Chabot. New year, new decade, new goals. But before we go forward, I'd like to go backward. I recorded an episode, I believe it was on Christmas Eve, about reflection, taking time away from social media and really taking that moment to reflect on where you've been and where you want to go. And I hope most of you did that. I know I did. Definitely was not on social media as much as I normally am, and really just took that moment to look back on what I accomplished in 19, where I came from since the tragedy, and where I'd like to go. And, there were some high moments and some low moments, and it's good to acknowledge both. It's good to look to see where you fell down. It's good to see where you rose up. And, for me, of course, the holidays are bittersweet. They were wonderful. I got to spend time with my oldest daughter who was home from college and reconnect with her and see my parents who don't live in town and, spend some time with my sister and her kids and her husband and, of course, my wife and my son. But, no matter how much fun we have, how good things are, there's always that tug on the heart, right? I equate it to like having a knife stuck in the side of your body. And, you try to ignore the pain as much as possible, but sometimes you move a certain way or whatever, and you get a sharp pain. Sometimes it's just a dull, lingering pain, but the pain is always there. My wife and I had this discussion recently the other day. Our daughter went back to college now, and it's hard, and it's amplified by the loss of our daughter. And, we were talking about it, and I said, it just sucks because our lives will never be the same. We'll always have this pain. We'll always have this just agonizing, gnawing pain in our hearts. And that's okay. I've accepted it. I know that that's my reality. But it doesn't change the fact that it is hard. It doesn't change the fact that I'm a human being like you guys, and some days I want to quit. Some days I want to give up. Some days I don't want to fight. But then I see my daughter's face. I close my eyes and I take a deep breath and I calm and slow everything down. And I remember why I'm doing it. I remember why I get up every day. My buddy yesterday, I was talking to him and he's like, well, you don't have a choice. I said, that's not true. I said, look, recently I read about somebody who, had 2 kids, 2 boys, and lost one of their sons to a car accident. And the dad basically became an alcoholic and over the course of 10 years drank himself to death and lost his job. Family lost their home. Then they moved into apartments, were evicted, continued to drink. It was horrible. And the mom went into a deep depression, barely ever came out of her room, became addicted to painkillers, tried to commit suicide multiple times. And, that's the other choice to be made. And so I told him, I said, no, I do have a choice. I could go down that path, but that's not who I am. That's not who I choose to be. That's not honoring my daughter or my 2 children that are surviving and showing them as I've said many times before, I have to be a lighthouse for them. I have to be a beacon for them. I have to show them that you can rise up. And look, that's the point of this entire thing. Somebody asked me the other day, like, what is it really that you want to accomplish with doing this podcast? It's exactly that. I want to show you guys that human beings are resilient. Bad shit is going to happen in your life. It's unfortunate. Hopefully not terribly bad, but things are going to happen. And you have to develop the skills to rise up to the challenge. You then have to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, get back on that damn horse, and rise even higher. You know, there's a song by a country artist that I love called Dierks Bentley, and some would argue that he's more pop than country, but, you know, it's called Riser. And that's exactly what the song is about, and that's kind of my theme song. It's about being stripped down to your bare bones and rising up. Being a beacon, you know, being a fighter, being a lighter, having a light that shines so bright that you can help others, that you can bring others up with you. And, you know, it's that saying, right? Rising tides raise all boats, something like that. I screwed that up, but, you know, it's that type of thing. And you know, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm not going to lie to myself. Some days are miserably hard. They are miserably hard. I'd like to say another word, but I'm trying to clean up my mouth for the new year. So my challenge to you, if you haven't done this already, and by the way, I'm going to preframe this by saying, forget New Year's resolutions. They're bullshit. We all know that most people make resolutions and they stick to them for about the first 30 days, right? Now, all of a sudden, everybody's a healthy eater. Everybody's in the gym. Thank God I don't go to the gym anymore and I have a gym in my house, because I can remember this time of the year I hated it because you had all these newbies. And I'm good. I'm happy that people are getting in the gym, but it's just a fad for them. It's not a decision. It's just a fad, like, yeah, I'm going to get healthy, but they haven't committed to it internally. Right? Like, let me tell you guys, it's not easy getting up every morning at 4:45 or 5 a.m. And I'm going back and forth between those times. It's not easy. It's hard to be consistent in getting up at those times, but I push myself because I'm committed to it. So if you hear agitation in my voice, it's because, you know, I see all these people on social media and different platforms talking about, you know, New Year's resolutions and eating healthy, and you know, I'm happy for them, but my question for them is, have they really made a decision? Have they made a commitment to themselves in that deep, dark place where they finally stop lying to themselves? And that's what you're doing, guys. You're lying to yourself. That finally says, look, this is what I'm committing to. Don't get me wrong. I eat healthy, but during the holidays, I let myself cheat a little bit. I enjoy. It's that little window where we all get an opportunity just to enjoy a little bit more, right? And now it's over. I'm back to it. But it's a commitment that I've made internally. You know, and I tell this to my players, the kids that I coach every week. And I stole it from Michael Jordan because I freaking love it, is that, look, the only person you're in competition with is yourself. Stop trying to show off to the world how great you are. Stop being the rooster or the peacock, right? Nobody gives a shit about how great you think you are, right? There's that saying that, you know, nobody really cares about how much you know until they know how much you care, right? Compassion, caring. You know, a friend of mine recently, and I'll give him his props, my buddy Tony, recommended a book to me, that Into the Magic Shop, which is just absolutely amazing. And what really resonated the most about me, it's all about, you know, meditation and clearing your mind and visualization and manifestation. But there's one piece that most of us miss: opening your heart. That's what my daughter gave me. I didn't realize it until I read this book, is that my Gabriella gave me the gift of finally opening my heart. Everything I was doing before was from my brain, not from my heart. And by the way, in this book, you'll read, he's a neurosurgeon, and he talks about how there is a true connection between the brain and the heart. how everybody thinks that only the brain runs the body. Well, that's not the case, folks. And I think we all knew that. But, again, it's about opening your heart. It's about compassion. And, for me, again, talking about, resolutions and everybody putting all these positive quotes and affirmations and all these wonderful things on Facebook. And some of them that put them out there, I know who they are in real life. And it's bullshit. They're not living what they're saying. Live your freaking truth, people. Live the truth. Take off your goddamn mask. Stop being afraid to show the world who you really are. And as my buddy, and he's not my buddy, but I feel like he is, who wrote Can't Hurt Me, David Goggins. I wish he was my buddy because he's a badass mofo. Accountability mirror. Take that time in the mirror and look yourself in the eyes and figure out what you're lying to yourself about. Stop lying. Be honest. Right? Like if you want to get healthy, then get healthy. But do it steps at a time. Take baby steps. I think the biggest mistake that we all make is that, come January 1 or January 2nd or this year, Monday, January the 6th, is that everybody's like, okay, I'm going for it. And they go head first. All of a sudden they're not working out and they go 5 days a week and then they get really sore and they're like, this sucks. I'm quitting. Take baby steps. Get up and walk for 10 minutes, right? Cut a few bad things out of your diet. Build a plan. Build a plan. Open your heart. Open your heart. And I don't know if you guys, I know some people do, but I think it's really, really important to sit down and write down what you want. What do you want to accomplish this year? What do you want to accomplish in the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? Write it down and read it every day. The cool thing is when you reflect at the end of the year, the end of 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, you can look and see the things that you got, how things changed in those time frames. But man, one of the guys that I love listening to, Andy Frisella, he says it best, like, if you really commit to it and you do the work, it's amazing how much you can change in just 1 year. Just 1 year. I'm coming up on the 2-year anniversary of my daughter's passing. It's my buddy and I talked about it yesterday. He's like, man, this is such a hard time for you and your family. It's like you go through the holidays, you get a short break, and then boom, the anniversary of your daughter's passing and her birthday 1 week later. Yeah, it's rough, man. It's rough. It's brutal. But I've got work to do. I've got a message to spread. My wife the other day, it makes me emotional just thinking about it. She was in the kitchen and she was crying and talking about why didn't I do more? Why didn't I know that she was that sick? And the reality is that we took our daughter to the doctor on Wednesday, the day before she passed, to our pediatrician who was our doctor for over 17 years. And he checked her out and was like, yeah, she's fine. She's just getting over the flu. And my wife feels responsible, and I understand why. But I told her, you're not. Had you known she was that sick, you would have gone to the end of the earth. I know this about my wife. And I know all of you parents out there listening, you would all do the same thing. If you knew that there was something wrong with your child like that, you would go to the end of the earth to cure them. You'd lay down your own life for them. This is what my daughter's foundation is about. First and foremost is creating awareness, guys. And, I bring this up because I said to my wife, look, had we known, had somebody else made us aware of myocarditis, of sudden cardiac death from the flu, I mean, let's face it. I think all of us or most of us would think that when we hear of cases of children passing from the flu, it's more about pneumonia, right? It turns into pneumonia. We never think it has to do with cardiac arrest and issues with the heart. And I read an article yesterday about a guy who had something stuck in his tooth and he used, a rusty nail and all these things to try and get it out, and he got an infection. And that infection went to his heart. And he went to the doctor because he wasn't feeling well. And this guy was a fireman. He's not feeling well. He goes to the doctor. They check him out and they're like, yeah, you have a heart murmur. Take this medication. Everything's fine. And he's like, I knew that something was wrong. And he said, so a couple days later, I went to the hospital. And finally, they checked me out and they were like, holy Christ, your heart is shutting down because you have a bacterial infection around your heart. And again, this is one of the missions of our foundation, is that doctors are just, and not all, look, there are some amazing doctors in this world, but most doctors today, and I don't know if it's because of insurance, but they follow a checklist, protocol. Check, 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 go. And again, this is about opening your heart, compassion, stepping away from the checklist, listening to your patient, rolling up your sleeves and getting to the bottom of what's going on. And look, I'm not a doctor. I don't know what it's like to be a doctor. I don't know what it's like to deal with insurance, right? I don't. But what I do know is what it's like to deal with people and what it's like to listen to them and connect with them, not from my brain, but from my heart. That's what we all crave, humans, is connection on a deeper level. Think about it. The most amazing moments in your life come from what? Connection with other human beings. That's what it comes from. So, this is a problem. This is something that we, with my daughter's foundation, Gabriella's heart, that we are trying to change is, look, we want to create awareness. And I've talked about this in other episodes, but again, it's a new year, it's a new decade, and we're about to finally launch officially the foundation. And, it's awareness, knowing so that if your child is sick and something's going on, it's like, don't take no for an answer. Go to the hospital, get a chest x-ray, get a blood test done, get an EKG done, right? It's better to err on the side of caution than, the old school way, which is how I was raised. Like, suck it up, buttercup. You're sick. Get some rest and you'll feel better until it happens to you. And just as important, we want more training and more compassion out of our doctors. Take a moment. Like the gentleman who wrote the book I'm talking about, he's a neurosurgeon. And he said, my whole life changed when I finally, and he said he didn't learn this until after he made a ton of mistakes, which is, the key to the whole thing is to open your heart, is to connect, is compassion with other human beings. And as a doctor, he said, I finally slowed down and decided to really connect with my patients and understand what they were feeling, their fears, their symptoms, all of that, so that I could really, truly make a difference in my profession. And he's gone on with Stanford and the Dalai Lama to create an organization that talks about the heart, brain connection, compassion, etc. And I'll put a link about the book in the notes of this episode, but I highly recommend you read it. I read it in like 4 days. I could have read it in one day. It was so good. But again, that goes for everything, guys. No matter what you do in life, teacher, financial professional, architect, I don't know. I'm running out of ideas, but whatever it is you do, it all has to start with compassion. It has to start with connection, right? Think about it. Some of the best meals that we've had are when we have servers that are compassionate, right? That really connect with us on an emotional level. And you're like, wow, that was obviously they give you great service, but you made a connection with them. And you're like, man, it just enhanced my whole experience. You're on a flight and you have a flight attendant who's the same way, like who really cares about making your experience on a plane. And we all know flying sucks now, but you have that person that cares and they make a connection with you and it just makes your experience a little bit better. That's what I'm talking about. Compassion. Open your heart. Lead. And it's funny, this came into my mind is that, I met somebody in an event, and before we met, we talked, and I said, I really want to be a lighthouse for other people. I want to be I want to be that beacon of hope, that lighthouse up on the rocks and below is the storm and the weather and and I want to be the person to lead you out of the storm. And it's funny, at the end, he bought me one of my favorite books, which is The Alchemist. And if you have not read that book, don't walk, run, sprint, and go get it. The Alchemist is one of the greatest books I've ever read. And he also bought me a t-shirt with a lighthouse on it. And that's what I hope I can be for you. Because I'm no better, I'm no worse. I'm just like you. But I want to be a lighthouse for you in what I'm learning on this journey to help lead you out of the darkness, or maybe you're not in the darkness. Maybe you just stepped off the path and you just need help getting back on. Maybe you just need somebody who isn't rich and famous to motivate you and to help you just make that one little change in your life to make it all come together. So moving forward in 2020 and in this next decade, I challenge you to open your heart. I challenge you to be compassionate, to connect with others, not be so focused on money and success. And again, those things aren't evil. But first connect, be compassionate, connect with your heart. And I promise you, if you do that from an authentic point, not with ulterior motives in place, but be authentic and compassionate, I promise you, you will see a humongous shift in your life. So, as I wrap this one up, here's what I would say is I wish you an amazing 2020. I wish you an amazing decade. If there's something you're suffering with, if you're struggling, reach out to me. I would love to be a shoulder for you. I would love to be a lighthouse for you. And I apologize. Charlie has gotten big, and Charlie hears me recording this episode in my daughter's room, and Charlie really wants to get in here. So, again, I challenge you to be compassionate. I challenge you to open your heart. And I look forward to hearing the stories of how you're making a difference in the world and how opening your heart is changing your life. To my sweet, beautiful baby girl, Gabriella, Papi misses you and loves you and thanks you so much for giving me the gift of being able to open my heart.